All right. Welcome to another episode of the House Husband Diaries, focusing on the thrill of the chase, Forrest Fenn's treasure hunt and memoir. So today, I thought we would start going through themes in the book. And one of the big themes that I see that I've said several times in previous videos at the Raleigh meetup a couple of months ago, and I get, pretty, I don't know if negative reviews or negative feedback is the right term, but I think I'm one of the few that thinks that this is important, but I'm still going to go through it anyway as a first one just because I want to hear what other people have to say. So I think it's really interesting that the first clue in the poem is begin it where warm waters hauled. And there's 8 instances that I counted that I have that I'm going to share with you all in this video. There are 8 instances in The Thrill of the Chase where a grown 70-plus-year-old man has written and has chosen stories that talk about tears. And that's not something that's typical of men, right? We don't cry a lot, supposedly. I do. I'm a house husband, right? I'm an emotional man. And, it just shocked me as I was reading through it. I was like, wow, okay, look for aberrations. And there seemed to be a number of instances from childhood on through the war that he recounts tears. And then canyons in the hands when he's washing the pots, and then, you wash tears away with your hands, take it in the canyon down. You can, it's not far, but it's too far to walk. Anyway, that was one of the first things that I took away from my first reading or two of The Thrill of the Chase. And so then I went back when I started making my spreadsheets and looking at themes throughout the book. And so this is one of my biggest aberrations. I've got 30-some aberrations, 30-some themes that I'll go through eventually. But for right now, I'm going to start with tears and think about it as where warm water saw, or maybe just the stories. Maybe it's not even the tears so much as the stories that he tells that surround the mention of tears. But the first one is on page 48 in the Totem Cafe Caper. And I have the 11th printing of The Thrill of the Chase. And he's been fired. He said, you're canned. And he's emotional. And he says that my mom said it was all right to cry. So we did that while standing under the lean-to where my father kept the Plymouth. And then maybe that's why she helped me get a dishwashing job at the Totem Cafe. So maybe there's something. Did she cry because he was crying? Did his mom cry because he got fired from his first job? So we did that. She said it was all right to cry, so we did that. He didn't say, she said it was all right to cry, so I cried and she consoled me, which I would think would be what I wouldn't think that my mom would cry if I got fired from a paper route. But I don't know, to each their own. So I think that's the first mention of tears, of crying. I could be wrong. And then on the very next page, it just talks about, he's already having the issue with the pies, which is another aberration, another theme that I'll get to in another video. But he's being fired by Frosty, and it says on page 49, he says, where did he say it? Oh, at the top. While I was drying my eyes, the waitress was standing over behind the far counter. And then it goes on to tell the rest of the story. So he's drying his eyes. So he's talked about, I guess every time he gets fired, he cries. So if I was 2 different jobs, I guess same summer, so he's same age, but he's drying his eyes. What does that mean? Does that have importance? And it's no longer his tears, but he is talking about how he's drying his eyes. And when you dry your eyes, you use your hands, as I said, And then he says his hands, have canyons because of the hot water. Where does the hot water? Where does the warm water halt? The warm water of your tears halts at your hands. In the canyon, those tears go down the canyons of your hand. I don't know. You can only take it. It's not far, but it only works, in my opinion, if there's a statue or a bronze of something that's important out west, which I wouldn't know about. And all of this, the trying, the Googles and stuff, I just, that gets boring for me after a while. I get off on unbelievable tangents. So it's hard for me to just be methodical and go through any bronzes. Plus, I don't really know if there's a good website that has a list of all of those. But then again, it's just like hot springs. So, if that happens to be it and somebody knows of something and you go find it, just, write me a handwritten letter and say thanks, or don't say thanks at all. Don't worry about it. All right. So the next time tears are mentioned is page 70. And this is stout-hearted men about his time at A&M. And he says down at the bottom, to avoid detection, I ran full speed across an open field, crying all the way until I reached a small county road that led back home. And I think it's interesting because now he's graduated from high school, he's college age, and he's crying when he has to leave school. Is he crying because he's embarrassed? Is he crying because he doesn't want to leave, because he loves it so much? I mean, the beginning, the first sentence of that paragraph is, I loved it beyond description, and suddenly everyone was a friend to be trusted, which is also sort of an aberration. And also in that paragraph, it talks about how he packs up things in his brown bag, brown paper sack. And I think it's interesting that he reaches a small county road. And a lot of these things will come back in other videos. That there's interesting themes throughout. So tears may not be the main theme or the main subtle hints throughout, but maybe within those stories, within those paragraphs there, it's just one of those, hey, look here a little bit more. When you see tears, there's emotion. Because after all, you talk about a memoir and you talk about, why would you pick certain topics to put, certain stories to put in your memoir, especially if you've hidden a treasure and you want people to go on this hunt, on this treasure quest, and experience the outdoors and all of these things, and you're putting subtle hints in there. Why would all these stories of you crying, why would you share those stories? What's special? Of this special place where you hid the treasure, does it have some emotional attachment? And when you think of it, it brings you to tears. Or when you think of leaving it. I mean, he said in the original version of the poem, or one of the first versions of the poem, he was going to go and die with the chest, and then, it was take my bones, or leave my bones and go in peace. So there's a huge emotional attachment in some way to this place. And that emotion evokes tears. So I'm thinking there's something there. But I'm thinking I'm one of the few. And the next fourth instance, we're halfway there, is in My War for Me. There's several instances here. On page 76. And he says, second paragraph, it's a long sentence. After all of the bullets and rockets and bombs had finished flying through the trees and across the skies, there was nothing left for us but the memory of 58,266 Americans whose names have been etched chronologically by time of death on that shiny black war memorial, which is constantly being washed clean by the tears of a million visitors. Where do warm waters halt? Maybe on a shiny black war memorial somewhere. I know a lot of people have said the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial in Angel Fire, near there, up in New Mexico, and I've only seen the Google Maps pictures. You click on it, and there's a helicopter, and it looks promising. But I also know there's I noticed there's a water feature there. And I'm thinking, I got to solve with that. But if you want to know that one, just email me at carter@hhdiaries.com or put a comment in there. Maybe I'll do a video on that. But then again, like I said, I haven't been out to any of these places, and I'm sure if I went out to these places that my view on a lot of these thoughts, would change, or at least, or maybe be confirmed. Who knows? But I think a lot of people have searched out there, and they think that. So, but it's interesting. Excuse me. I'm going to have a little coffee. Cape Royal Cows. Decaf. Decaf from Guatemala today. It's later in the day. So, need a decaf. Fifth, we're getting there. Fifth place, where he says, or uses tears, or mentions tears. Page 82, My War for Me. Third-ish paragraph down. I was so ashamed I started crying in my oxygen mask, sobbing. I could hardly see through the dark visor on my helmet, and the salty tears burned my eyes in a way I had not known for a long time. Salty tears burn my eyes. I think the blaze burning. I looked at that as a theme, burning, blaze, those types of things. I don't know. That's way down on my list of themes. But let me know if that's a theme for you, or if you want me to do one on that. I'll probably get there, but it'll probably be a couple months before I get through all the themes that I have. And then I just watched another video. Last night I was watching K-Pro and Cal do the little rock thing out in Las Vegas. I don't really know a whole lot. I know they get like $10,000 or something, but that's kind of like a local thing out there, and there are a bunch of searchers for that, and that's cool. But then somebody mentioned it is what it is, and I'd forgotten about that guy. I like his videos too. Eric Johnson, I think is his name. Like, they're super fun videos, so thanks for reminding me. I think it was, I don't remember who it was. Tom Sawyer, Watson, somebody had posted that on the chat side, and so it's really interesting. I watched the latest one from Eric on his thoughts of Howard Hughes and Too Far to Walk. I don't have that book. I don't have any other books, but he talked about the Howard Hughes with the suits, men in suits from Washington, taking a break from Washington, and of course the next sentence in this paragraph is, suddenly I hated Lyndon Johnson and Robert McNamara and all of the other politicians who were sitting in their fat offices at home, totally oblivious to what war was really like. And of course at home was probably Washington, D.C. and politicians. So, I don't know, maybe there's a theme there, but like I said, I don't have the other books, so maybe he's confirming those themes, those thoughts over and over with something about dislike for government. All right, 3 left. Page 95. It has been 56 years since the war, and no one cries anymore. That thought is deeply personal and indelible in me even now, 42 years after I was there. And I think this is probably where it hit me when I was reading through the first or second time. That I started to notice that there were a lot of mentions of crying. This is now the sixth mention of tears, of crying. And it was interesting, and no one cries anymore. So I'm thinking, where warm waters halt, no one cries anymore. This is where I'm getting all of that, my thoughts. And then the next sentence is, that thought is deeply personal and indelible in me even now. So there's something, if this place is where he hid the treasure is personal and he's tied to it emotionally, it's umbilical. He says right after no one cries anymore that thought is so personal and indelible in me even now. I had to look up indelible a long time ago when I was doing that. That's not a word I use every day. So I've already forgotten the exact definition of it. So making marks that cannot be erased, removed, or the like, that cannot be forgotten or changed. So they're just really deeply etched in your soul. They're indelible. They're permanent. All right, 2 more. We'll get through this. I have a limited amount of time, so I'm just trying to take my time with it. Let me know your thoughts on any of these points, all of them together. The last 2 mentions of tears are on pages 100 and 101. And he says, 4th paragraph, 3rd paragraph down, "It is more than sad to me, not just that the French soldiers are dead and buried, but that no one knows where they are or even who they were. No one is crying now that a half a century has passed." And then he goes on to say, "The ground knows and the tall grass knows, but they won't tell. Secret. I can keep my secret where? Tall grass knows." There's several mentions of tall grass. That'll be another video. And then the last mention on page 101, which I find fascinating. I love this little story, this poem, or I don't even know what you call it, but this writing. Bottom of the 1st stanza, "Nor all your tears wash out a word of it." So the whole stanza says, "The moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on. Nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it." So no matter how much you cry, you can't change the past. You can't really change the future. But this is talking about the past, because it's moved on. It's written, and now we go on. You can't cry about past things. You need to move on. So I find it really interesting. I think that's the last mention of tears. And I'll end with, let me know what your thoughts are. Are tears important? Do they have anything to do with where warm waters halt? Are they the warm waters? Does emotion play? How much does emotion play into where the treasure is hidden, where the chest is? How much of this emotion, tears, is tied in? Is that why he's sharing these stories? Do you think it's just complete coincidence that all of these stories, all these mentions of tears are in someone's memoir, or is there maybe a subtle hint throughout the book with that theme of tears? I don't know. It's just my thoughts. No one else's. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear. I love interacting on this. So hit me up. Thanks for watching another episode of the House Husband Diaries, and we'll catch you tomorrow, same time.